Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
And today we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, written and directed by James Gunn, and starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, Pom Clementieff, I think is how you say it. I looked it up beforehand, and of course I messed it up. But Kurt Russell, Elizabeth Debicki, and a few other people, along with the voices of Bradley Cooper and, of course, Vin Diesel as Baby Groot this time around.
You skipped over Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, yeah. This was, what was this? Part of phase, I guess this is part of phase 3. Phase 3 was one of the longest phases of the MCU phases. Phase 1 was, 5 movies, and then phase 2 was 4 or 5 movies, and then phase 3 was a bunch of movies up until Spider-Man Far From Home. This was actually the last MCU movie I saw as a California resident.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I can't remember when this one was released. It was sometime in the summer. Must have been we moved in June, so it was probably released in May. And so it was one of the last movies I saw in California before we moved back. Did you see this in the theater?
No, I didn't. I'm trying to remember when I even saw this, because it was a long time. I think I saw, yeah. I saw this after Endgame.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, because, maybe, so let me think. Actually, it might have been, might have been just after Infinity War. I might have seen it before Endgame, but I do know that when I saw Infinity War and, I did not know who Mantis was.
Right. Yeah, same thing. My sister actually just recently, I don't know if she watched it for the first time, but she recently watched Infinity War and Endgame, and same thing. She told me the same thing. She was like, I don't know who this Mantis person is. And I was like, yeah, well, if you haven't seen Guardians Volume 2, you're going to be a little lost on that one. And she also said she hadn't watched Age of Ultron, because we were talking about WandaVision and stuff, and I was like, man, you gotta go back and rewatch some of these.
That one's pretty important.
Watch it for the first time. Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if time has changed it, but Age of Ultron, from what I remember, was it was kind of, people were a little bit let down by it. I think that's kind of the vibe I got. I personally really like Age of Ultron.
I liked it a lot when I saw it in the theater, and then kind of as time went on, I realized that it's still a good movie, and I still find it very entertaining. But out of the Avengers movies, it's probably my least favorite Avengers movie out of the 4. I don't know where I would rank it in terms of other MCU movies, but I feel like I like it a little less as time has gone on. But it's still a very good movie. All of the MCU movies are good. In my opinion. So even when I say like my least favorite MCU movie, it's still a good movie.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, sort of, because, we'll talk about that with this movie, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. The only Marvel movie, and still to this point, I think I mentioned this frequently in the podcast, but I still haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Right.
And that might be the only one I haven't seen, because before we did the episode for Black Panther, I haven't seen Captain Marvel.
I was just about to ask if you'd seen that one. So there's a couple. Yeah. But out of those, you've only missed 2, so that's pretty good. Well, what was do you remember what your initial
I remember
reaction?
What I was going to say. I was going to say, I haven't seen Age of Ultron probably since we did the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's been a while. What was your question?
I was just curious what your initial reaction to Guardians 2 was.
I remember, so if I'm not mistaken, I had knowledge before I saw it the first time that you, from what I remember, I don't know how you feel about it now, so I'm not spoiling anything, but I remember you saying that it just wasn't a very good movie. And I definitely got that feeling watching it the first time. Now, this time, I would say I enjoyed watching a lot of the movie, and I thought that a lot of the humor that I was expecting to be cringe because of how Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was coming after, the first film, which was extremely heavy on humor, but done so in a way that it wasn't forced. And I thought I remembered this movie. It was one that I was extremely worried about having forced humor, and I couldn't remember if I felt that way, but this time watching it, I thought the humor was pretty good for the most part. There are a couple moments here that I didn't like, but most of the humor I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree. Here was my initial reaction. When I was in the theater, I don't remember what moment it was, but it was probably a scene between Ego and Star-Lord. And I remember thinking to myself, is this the plot of the movie? Like, it just felt weird to me. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it's just they're like nothing. They didn't do anything. And so I really disliked it when I saw it the first time. And it was actually, for a long time, my least favorite Marvel movie. And so I just remember, I never even really wanted to rewatch it. I had not seen it since I saw it in the theater until I rewatched it for this episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't want to. I just remember thinking it was not any good. And I actually rewatched it twice for this episode, and I like it a lot more than I did then. I still think it has some problems.
Yeah.
But I think it's still very entertaining, I think. And so I think because knowing what the plot was this time and everything, I think I liked it more, or I did like it more this time around.
Yeah. I think the same thing happened to me too, because I remember the first time I watched it, not necessarily feeling what I thought you felt like, as far as how just of a movie it was, but I remember thinking that, like you said, it was one of the weaker ones, and it still might be. But it definitely was. I enjoyed watching it. I don't remember thinking too often.
Like, when is this movie going to be over?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I think, so kind of just jumping right into it, my big problem originally with the movie, and I, don't want to sound like pretentious or anything, but there's kind of a screenwriting rule, or maybe it's just a storytelling rule, that your main characters should be proactive, not reactive, meaning that they should be doing things to drive the story forward. And if you watch this movie, the Guardians don't really do a whole lot. They kind of start the movie by, Rocket steals the batteries and everything, and so then the Sovereign are after them. But once Ego kind of meets up with them, they go hang out with Ego and find out about Ego, and the Guardians themselves really don't do anything until they have to, which is when they have to battle Ego. And so that was, to me, what was just kind of it threw me off watching the movie. I was like, these guys are just not doing anything. Now, I've actually heard the same thing said about Rogue One, and I haven't really watched Rogue One again with that in mind, because I liked Rogue One a lot, but I have heard that complaint about Rogue One, so I'd be curious to kind of go back with that, with more of a critical eye on Rogue One, and see if that's the case.
We definitely need to do a podcast on Rogue One, because I haven't seen it since I saw it. I did see that one in the theater, and I need to definitely rewatch that.
Yeah. So that was my big issue, and I did have a couple issues with the humor. Like you said, it seemed like they kind of rehashed jokes a little bit, or some of the humor was a little bit forced. And I will say that is one of my complaints about this movie. It's one of my notes, and we can go ahead and get into that part. Is this movie is essentially just a cartoon. It's just a live-action cartoon. I mean, there are so many moments where I wrote that note after Drax was. There's a scene, where Drax is hanging out of the back of the spaceship. They're fighting the Sovereign, and then they go through the jump point, and they end up crash landing on the planet. And Drax is still back there, and he's bouncing off trees and everything. Mm-hmm. It's like that would. I mean, I know Drax is supposed to be a strong character, but like that would kill him. And he literally laughs it off. He's after the ship is crashed, he just is laughing as he's getting up off the ground. And so I was like, okay, this movie's a cartoon. And then you skip forward and you've got the scene with Rocket battling the Ravagers in the forest, and he's sending them up into you see their bodies going above the trees and down. I mean, that's like Looney Tunes cartoon right there.
I definitely had that. Like, I remember seeing that and thinking, only a Guardians movie could do this.
Right.
So
it's funny, and I like that scene a lot actually with Rocket. It's very cartoonish. And then probably one of the most cartoonish aspects of the movie is when Yondu and Rocket, and I forget, somebody else is with them. Oh, it's Sean Gunn's character. They're going through like the 700 jumps, and their faces are all distorted, and like, I mean, that's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Like, I remember when that started happening. I was like, "Whoa, they're going to actually do this." But I actually kind of liked it, which kind of surprised me.
It's funny, but I think the problem with it is if it's so cartoonish, then it almost feels like nobody can really. I mean, Yondu does. Spoiler alert: Yondu does die. But it just feels like nobody really could die in this movie because it's so cartoonish. It's like if a bomb were to blow up, if Groot had actually hit the wrong button, I almost would have expected us to see all of the main characters with like the blowback, the hair that's sticking up and like the soot
and then just
on
like
their face or
slowly
whatever.
Look at each other.
Right, like, I can't believe you hit the wrong button. Right. So that I feel like is a kind of a detractor in my opinion. But still, like I said, it's very entertaining. It is very funny. And so I do actually like it. It probably is still at the bottom, close to the bottom of my list of Marvel movies. I have not seen Thor: The Dark World since I saw it in the theater. And so I feel like that one might now... That one was originally above this one, but those might end up switching spots and stuff. Just because there's so many good Marvel movies that I don't know where this one would fall.
Now that you mentioned The Dark World, I actually haven't even finished that movie. I've like got 3/4 of the way through. I don't remember if we were doing a podcast and got delayed for something, but
it could be.
Anyway,
that and The Incredible Hulk are kind of considered the worst Marvel movies.
Yeah, like I know that Incredible Hulk gets thrown in there, but like in my mind, subconsciously, I don't even think of the Incredible Hulk as part of the universe.
It feels very separate because of the fact that Edward Norton's in it, and then it was also made by Universal, or I mean, Marvel was it's a Marvel movie, but I guess it was distributed by Universal, so it also kind of feels a little separate in that way too. Yeah, I think it is easy to kind of forget that that's a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I can't remember. Did we do an episode on that one? I'd have to check. I can't even remember.
We were going to do Hulk. And,
the Eric Bana Hulk. I remember that.
And then, we were watching it, and both of us were like, we didn't.
That was a hard one to sit through again.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think either of us did. Both of us were like, well, I kind of didn't finish it, and we were like, it was...
Yeah.
Let's just not do it.
Yeah. We will have to do that movie eventually, so I guess we'll have to sit through it. But
yeah.
And that one is one I liked in the theater. I really enjoyed watching Hulk, and then but sitting down to watch it that time, that was a few years ago now, but yeah, that was tough. But this one was not, and I was worried that it was going to be. I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, especially, it sounds like you had almost like an animosity for it.
I did, I think. I did. And I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know if it's because it might have been one of those things where when I left the theater, I was like, man, I didn't like that movie. And then just seeing all the praise it was getting, I think that might have just made me be like, man, I don't like that movie. It just made me want to be like, forget that movie. I don't know. I don't know if that was the case or not. But yeah, I did kind of have a weird animosity towards it. And I feel like it was unjustified because it's a good movie.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I thought the writing was good. I thought the story, like you said, I think the story is pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that this celestial being just came to be and then, wanted to clone himself, basically. And I thought it was a cool story. And yes, you were bringing up the tuniness of it, and I think when I first noticed it was when you get that far off shot of Ego the planet, and you see the face, and I was my first thought was animation movie, But I was like, no, this is live action, and we've got a face on a planet, but it's not bad, I guess. And I don't know.
Well, I remember in the first Guardians there was a planet that was like,
That's right.
It looked like a skull
That's
or
right.
something. So it's almost like he kind of there. That didn't actually throw me off too much because I think I remember that from the first movie.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Which is really cool too. It's a very interesting, idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that was all Stan Lee. Like, I'm assuming that's
What for like the planets?
just
and
the
stuff?
ideas of planets become being alive like that.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know who created Ego. I know looking on IMDb, like you can see, just for story credit wise, Star-Lord was created by two people. Stan Lee had credit for creating Groot, but like everybody else was somebody.
Okay,
different people.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, I was thinking he had done all of the Guardians.
nope. I think it's because they came later. I think a lot of these Guardians came later. I don't know if there was an original like Guardians of the Galaxy group that has changed over the years.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the original Guardians episode, but I didn't. I'm sure that some people are turning this off right now, but I did not know who the Guardians were. Before, like when they were like, we're making a Guardians movie, I was like, who?
Yeah, all right.
And I thought I recognized them,
mm-hmm.
but looking back, like when I went through like my cards and like everything like that, like my trading cards, like
they're not a part of it.
I don't think I had any. Like I thought I might have recognized Star-Lord, but I couldn't find any reference of any of them in any of my stuff from the past.
That's true, because I had a lot of those trading cards too, and I don't recall ever seeing. Because I was the same thing. I didn't know who the Guardians were when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, and I meant to look up this bit of information because I know they changed Star-Lord's dad. In the comics, Star-Lord's dad is not Ego, I believe. It's somebody else, and I don't remember. And I meant to look that up, but I don't know who it is. And they decided to change it and make it Ego for the film.
Gotcha.
And it worked. It was cool. I liked it a lot. Plus, casting Kurt Russell was a great choice. I love Kurt Russell.
I was going to say it was
Snake Plissken.
Very fun to watch him act. Snake. My son, my oldest son, he and I did show him Escape from New York not too long ago because he was like,
nice.
I mentioned the Escape movies and mentioned that there's a game that we all like, Metal Gear Solid, and Solid Snake is based technically off of Snake Plissken, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And
or he's inspired by him or something. Yeah.
And in the second game, his code name is actually Snake Plissken. No, it's not Snake Plissken. It's just Plissken.
Just Plissken? That makes sense.
He's like, call me Plissken.
I was about to say, they're just not even hiding it. Being like, yeah, his code name is Snake Plissken.
Right. So yeah, it was just Plissken. But anyway, so I told him watching this because he was watching Guardians Volume 2 with me for that as well, and I was like, do you know who that is? And he's like, I don't remember if he guessed or not, but it wasn't right. And I was like, nope. I was like, that's Snake Plissken. And he's like, no, you know what he said to me? He goes, that's not Snake. And I said, why? And he goes, he's not cool enough. And I was like, it's Kurt Russell. I was like, yeah, he is.
He is cool enough. Well, let's go back to the beginning of the film because I actually want to ask you about what you think of the opening credit sequence. So if you recall, I know you just watched this like 2 days ago, but it's the Guardians are defending the Sovereign's batteries against the giant like creature,
right? And
Groot plugs in the stereo system and he's dancing around to Mr. Blue Sky,
right?
I love that song personally.
Oh yeah, you and I both have a history with that song.
Yeah, and it's a funny sequence, but I don't love it because it's to me feels a little bit like a rehash of a joke. We got the dancing Groot at the very end of Guardians, and we even had that thing where at the end of Guardians, I think it was like it was a mid-credit sequence or something like that, but Plant Groot. It wasn't even Baby Groot yet. It was like Plant Groot is dancing, and when Drax looks, he freezes.
Now I really
he does the exact same thing in this movie.
Loved that myself.
Really?
Because I was like, it was so like ridiculous. Like he's literally still has the tentacle like attached to him, and they just like wait, no, he had rolled or something, I think it was, and then the tentacle comes back and picks him up. But it was just so ridiculous that I actually felt like I wanted to hate it, but I was like, I can't.
Yeah. I don't like that part. I don't mind the dancing sequence, but I don't like that part because it's just, especially since it's so early on in the movie, it gave me.
But they didn't do it again.
No, they didn't. But it made me worried for the movie because I was like, okay, we're already doing a joke that we did at the end of Guardians 1.
Fair enough.
So I don't love it, but I do like that song quite a bit.
Yeah, it was first time I ever heard it. And I think you too.
It was way late. I don't remember. I don't know when that song came out originally, but you and I, at least for me, I didn't hear it until the trailer for Eternal Sunshine back in 2004.
And that trailer was amazing. And both you and I were like, I want to see that movie. And
what is that song?
Right, because the song went so well with it. And yeah.
I think it was actually like the teaser trailer for Eternal Sunshine. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because it was not even on the soundtrack, I don't think. Was it?
I don't recall. I have it on my phone.
Or maybe I'm thinking of Garden State, where there was a song that was... No, because I think that...
Yeah, no, Garden State had a Travis song.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first Travis songs I ever heard.
And that was actually on the soundtrack, too, wasn't it?
It was not on the Garden State soundtrack.
Oh, okay, well then
that is only on the Travis album. Mr. Blue Sky is on the Eternal Sunshine soundtrack. But yeah, that Travis song is really good too. I listen to that song every now and again still.
Well, Travis is one of my favorite bands because like when that song was in that trailer,
the teaser trailer for Garden State, by the way, which I saw when I went and saw Eternal Sunshine, that teaser trailer blew me away. And that one used the Let Go by Frou Frou.
Oh, that's right.
And it had no dialogue in the trailer or anything, and it was so good.
Oh, yes, no kidding. That might be my favorite trailer of all time. I totally forgot, or teaser. I totally forgot about that one, actually, because every time I think of the Garden State trailer, I think of Travis. Mm-hmm. I totally forgot about the Frou Frou, because it's in the movie.
Yeah, that song is in the movie. Yeah.
But I forgot about the teaser for it. Yeah, that teaser was magical. Good old days back when artsy movies were awesome.
Can you believe both of those movies are now 17 years old?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel old.
Well, I just saw on Facebook like yesterday that this kid that I remember babysitting when he was like maybe 4 years old graduated high school this year. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They grow up so fast.
My daughter is starting high school next year.
Yeah.
What? No. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. I mean, I could hold her back.
you could fail her. I don't know. Would the school even go for that? That'd be funny.
I wouldn't tell them. They're like, she's going to 9th grade, and I'd like drop her off at middle school, like the beginning of the year.
Dad, this isn't where I'm supposed to go.
You're going to 8th grade again, okay? Back to the movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what even got us off. It was the music. That's right, Mr.
Yes,
Blue
the ELO. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best bands, in my opinion, too. Classic bands of all time. ELO, so good. So many good songs that Jeff Lynne is the lead singer of and does. And I think kind of forgotten. I mean, a lot of people technically know who ELO is, but I think they kind of were overlooked more than they should have been. Yeah, that song's great. Obviously this movie too focuses a lot on the soundtrack. You have many segments throughout the movie that have kind of just a music sequence.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I love about the Guardians movies. Not just the soundtrack, but the fact that it's actually kind of almost plays a part in the movie. He's got those tapes that his mom had given him.
Right.
Awesome Mix Volume 1 and Awesome Mix Volume 2.
And his Walkman gets crushed in this. Yeah, and it's almost like Wilson from
right, yeah.
Castaway.
From Castaway, yeah.
Like, that is a character, and it got killed. Did I don't remember. Do they fix it by the end of the movie?
he gets a Zune.
Remember? Oh, that's right.
And he's all impressed because they're like, it can hold 300 songs, and he's like, 300 songs? Yeah. I thought that was funny. I actually like that they gave him a Zune at the end.
It was hilarious, because when did this movie come out?
2017.
Yeah, and like, yeah, exactly. A Zune.
But yeah, I actually was thinking about, I was thinking about it today, actually. I was like, which soundtrack do I actually think is better, Volume 1 or Volume 2? And it's a tough choice, because they both movies have really great music. And this one, I love that they use that Fleetwood Mac song.
Oh, I love that song so much. The Chain.
Is it The Chain?
Yeah.
That song's amazing. I really like the song Brandy by Looking Glass, which they play in the very beginning of the movie with the young Kurt Russell. And then he even talks about it in the movie, talks about how... Right. I like how they actually incorporated the lyrics to make sense for Ego himself, talking about how, the sea is my love. And he's like, so he had to leave Earth, to kind of making Brandy almost be about, he was like the lead singer of Brandy almost. I thought that was really cool. I like that a lot. And that's a great song, too. I had
never heard that song before, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
I know I had heard it. I recognized it, but I don't know.
I don't know if I knew any of the other music in this movie, honestly.
Other than the Fleetwood Mac song?
Other than
the ELO song.
Yeah. I don't think I did. But they were good, but like I said, now in Volume 1 I knew most of those. There were a couple that I hadn't heard before, but anyway, I felt like this time they were like, "Oh, let's dig it." I mean, I don't know. Maybe had you heard most of the music?
I feel like I had. Maybe there was probably a couple songs I hadn't heard, but I feel like I'd heard most of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I listened to oldies when I was a kid. Like, driving to school, my parents would always have, the
Fox
oldies
97.
Station on. Yeah.
I definitely
Which had,
listened to some Fox 97.
That had some songs that were even older than these
those
songs.
were like 50s.
60s and 50s, yeah. But I do know that my dad was kind of obviously into 70s music and everything since he was, in his 20s then. So I feel like I had heard some of these. I know I'd heard Brandy, and there's a couple other ones that I'm pretty sure I'd heard on the soundtrack. I might not have been super familiar with them, but I had heard them before. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about the Sovereign? They're the race of beings who are gold.
I really liked them.
Yeah. They have a very cool look. I like the design of them in the movie and everything. And I don't know if that's how they look in the comic or not. I have no idea.
There were a couple comical moments that they tried to do that I didn't like. But a lot of them I did like. I like how their entire fleet got obliterated almost instantaneously, twice.
Yeah.
And they're these super egotistical race of people, so yeah, I liked them a lot.
Yeah, I thought they were cool. I like that Rocket steals, insults them and then steals their batteries. And
I love that. I died laughing. Yeah. And that was kind of one of those things where it was kind of it wasn't really reusing a joke, but it was just Rocket being Rocket.
Right.
And his reaction to Drax when Drax just starts cracking up and he's like, shh, shh. He's like, don't.
Yeah.
It was, yes, it was the little, things that they do, the little details that a lot of the characters use in this, like Star-Lord and Rocket and just Drax, just brings so much. I can't think, there's several, but I can't think of any more examples, but particularly Rocket, I'm sure, does it. You know what I'm saying? It just brings the fine details and makes it what it is.
Rocket is one of my favorite characters. I really like Rocket a lot. And I like his arc in this movie, how he ends up kind of bonding with Yondu and realizing that,
well, he and obviously Quill too,
Yeah.
Yondu really they did Yondu so well.
They did.
they brought him in and made him like, and who plays him?
Michael Rooker.
Yes, that's right. Also I know him from, and I'm assuming most people would know him from Walking Dead. Yeah,
he's also in Mallrats.
Oh,
he plays.
I don't know if I've ever seen Mallrats.
Oh, really? Huh.
I've seen Clerks. I don't think I saw Clerks 2. Anyway, he plays. Yeah, so I haven't seen it.
He plays the main character's girlfriend's dad.
Okay.
Who produces like a dating game show, and that dating game show is having like I guess it's like a live episode in the mall that day.
Yeah, I thought his performance was just fantastic.
Michael Rooker is a great actor, and I agree. I think they did a great job with Yondu this film, and again, I don't know. Maybe I was just in a bad mood the first time I saw the movie, but I remember I wasn't all that invested in the whole idea that Yondu was actually, Peter Quill's father in a way,
right?
And but watching it this time around, I actually really liked that whole aspect of it, and how Yondu, Peter kind of sees Yondu as his actual father and the man who raised him, and Yondu sacrificing himself for Peter. I liked all of that. I thought that was all really good and well done. So I don't know why I didn't really care for it the first time around.
Right. And I wonder, I'm curious if that was their original intent after the first movie, though, because Yondu and
he's a bit of a villain in the first movie. Yeah.
He and Quill are...
Yeah, no, that's true.
So, I don't know. But I felt like, too...
And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why I didn't... Maybe it's, maybe if I had watched Guardians 1 right before watching Guardians 2 this time around, maybe I wouldn't have liked that whole aspect, because it is so different than the first film.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to... It's been a while since I've seen the first Guardians. I might have to rewatch it and kind of rethink that. But I liked it this time around. Watching it without having seen Guardians 1 in a while,
right? I
did like it this time around. But I do... Yes, I thought about that as well. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's like a bad guy in the first movie, and so they did kind of change it a little bit this time around.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter, obviously, he talks about how, like, Yondu was not cool with him, or to him when he was a kid. He...
Right. But then it shows
he said he was going to eat him and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. But then it shows like a flashback of him like showing him how to
shoot the gun and stuff. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I don't either. But I did like it. I thought it was good. What did you think about Sylvester Stallone's little cameo? I mean, it was a little bit more than a cameo, I guess, but...
So, when he first showed up, I did not remember he was in it. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it took me out of the movie. Because I was like, Sylvester Stallone is too unique of an
recognizable.
Yeah. Like it just did not feel right. But when he comes back, and they did like that whole thing where they were like, "You did good, Yondu." That I felt, the emotion that they were trying to get off that, and he didn't take me out anymore, and I thought he did good. So I like him. I like him in there. I thought he did fine. What about you?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it too, and I like again how they kind of it's setting up, especially the first scene where we see him, where Stallone really doesn't like Yondu, and he's like, I'm not coming back to this establishment anymore since you serve Yondu, and you find out that he was a Ravager. I mean, I guess he still technically is a Ravager, but his Ravager friends are, look down on him now because he was kidnapping kids and delivering them to Ego and stuff. And so it's setting up that whole Ego storyline, but it's also kind of setting up the reason why Yondu didn't deliver Peter to Ego. And so I liked it, and I really like Yondu's funeral at the end where they all show up again. The guy standing next to Stallone, who has kind of like the glass crystal kind of face. Do you remember him?
Yes, because they show a shot of him just kind of staring down at Yondu, like he's the last guy that walks away.
Right. That is Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting that he was in this movie, and I'm curious if there were scenes that got cut out, because I mean, he's not a hugely famous actor, I suppose. He's not like a Tom Cruise or anything, or even a Sylvester. He's not Sylvester Stallone, but he's still a pretty big actor, and he had like 2 lines in this whole movie.
Well, and especially since he has a connection to superhero, the superhero like genre.
Yeah.
Like to have him, I can see why him being known to be that he was playing that character could be of interest to the demographic of
comic book movie watchers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I'm I don't know if he's friends with James Gunn and just, came in and did this small role for James Gunn or what, but I just thought it was interesting that he was playing such a small part. They were obviously, one of the mid-credit sequences deals with Stallone and some of the other people we saw during the funeral, like Ving Rhames. That was an interesting cameo to see at the very end there. And it seemed like they were kind of hinting at some
You said the end
movie.
credits?
Yeah,
I did not actually watch the end credits. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there's 5 credit sequences in this movie.
So remember how that was when I told you we couldn't do it because I had the headache?
Yeah.
And once the movie ended, I was like, I have to go to bed because my head was hurting so bad. So I didn't even.
So as soon as the credits rolled, you turned it off?
Yeah, I just turned it off because it was like.
Well, that's too bad because I was going to talk about those credit sequences. And now I'm not going to remember all of them, but one of them, none of them are like super important, I don't think. But one of them is Sylvester Stallone, and you see Ving Rhames, and you see, what's her name? She's on Star Trek Discovery now too. Hold on, let me look it up. Michelle Yeoh. She's one of she actually looked. This movie came out before Thor Ragnarok, but she looks a lot like Hela from Thor Ragnarok. She has kind of the dark hair and the dark eyeshadow. I remember thinking, watching this movie this time around, like when she first shows up on screen, I was like, whoa. But it's actually Michelle Yeoh as somebody. But anyway, Sylvester Stallone's talking to them, and he's like, decides to kind of get this old band back together, and they're going to go steal some stuff. And so it felt like they were setting up some sort of movie with Sylvester Stallone being the leader of this kind of gang to do something. I don't know. But nothing ever came about of that, and I don't know if anything ever will. Another one of the mid-credit sequences was Groot looks like a teenager. Kind of looks like more like we saw him in Infinity War. And Quill comes into his room and complains about how he needs to clean his room, and he's, going, I am Groot. And he's like, you need to watch your attitude type of thing. It's very, very father-son type thing. And,
yeah.
And at the very end of the scene, Quill actually says, now I know how Yondu felt. And then one of the other sequences is, they're with the Sovereign. They're setting up for Adam Strange, I think. It's like a cocoon, like a birthing pod, a new birthing pod, and she's, mentions something about, she's like, I'll call him Adam. And I forget what the other ones are actually now that I think about it. But so they weren't anything like I said, none of them were like huge or anything. But yeah, you should go back and watch the credits whenever you get a chance, just so you can see. I wrote down, I was like, 5 credit sequences seems like a little much, but whatever. It's, whatever. I'd rather have 5 than none, because it's always fun to see one.
Yeah, and Marvel, really, no one else had been doing that until Marvel started.
Very few movies did it. Like, I remember one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies did it, but they were nothing. They were just little...
Yeah, that's different.
Kind of like Easter eggs.
Right.
It was like, I think the Pirates one, it was like the monkey did something.
Right.
Like, it was nothing. It was just, if you happen to sit through it, you got like a little reward.
Right, that's totally different than what the end credits...
Teasing.
Yes.
Yeah, Marvel was teasing upcoming movies with it and everything.
Yes.
It got to the point where you had to sit through the credits for Marvel movies. And now Marvel movies seem to be doing 2 credit sequences, it seems like most of the time. They'll do a mid-credit sequence, which is kind of the setup for the next movie, and then the very end, it'll be some joke, that is kind of like what the Pirates of the Caribbean did. It'll be like a little nothing. But this movie had 5 scenes, so it was it was a lot.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I know we're trying to keep our episodes a little bit shorter. We've been going crazy long with our episodes lately, so unless there's anything major you want to talk about, I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting, and I'll remember it after we stop recording, but I think if you're cool with it, we can go right into rating if you want.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
So, as far as, the characters go, like, Quill and Gamora and Nebula, like, we didn't talk about Nebula or...
No, we didn't.
Or
oh, yeah, that
Gamora
was actually
or
one of the notes I wrote was how Nebula actually talked about how she could never beat Gamora in a fight, and then, granted, she flew like a spaceship at her, but once they fight in this movie, Nebula pins her down very quickly.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
So I thought that was a little weird.
We also didn't talk about Mantis.
No.
Did we talk about anything?
No, not really. Mantis is a great character too. I like Mantis a lot. She's fun and she's funny.
I loved her scene when she touches Drax and like she's like, I've never experienced this much humor. And then they both start pointing at, was it Quill?
Quill, yeah.
And laugh.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. There was a lot of good scenes in this, and I was actually pretty pleased with it after this watching. I might have even bumped up my rating. I think I was gonna go with like a 3.5 stars, but I might go. I'm gonna stick with 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's actually what I was gonna give it, 3.5. I think. I liked it a lot more this time around, but I still kind of think it's weaker than Guardians 1. Guardians 1 is probably close to the top of maybe my top 5 Marvel movies. And this one, I think, is not nearly as good as the first one, but it is a good movie. It's still fun, but yeah, 3.5 stars. That's what I would give it as well, I think. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You can always leave a comment on our website, www.cinemaheroes.com. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook, facebook.com/SMNSM podcast. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are @CinemaHeroes. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment. As always, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We'd love it if you would do that. And we'd love to hear from you any way you want to reach out to us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.